Windrush Groves was a suburban development flanked by rolling hills and lined with neat, pastel-colored houses. On lazy weekends, families gathered for bike rides, kids honed their sidewalk chalk skills, and neighbors greeted each other with nods. The Windrush Groves Homeowners Association, HOA, prided itself on well-manicured lawns, uniform mailboxes, and a sense of orderly living. Yet behind the calm facade, tensions often ran high. A thick rulebook governed everything from fence heights to the paint colors on shutters. Most complied, wishing to avoid fines or neighborly disputes. Among the more assertive enforcers was Brenda Aston, though nearly everyone called her Karen due to her brash, I'm always right demeanor. She was middle-aged, wore her hair in a stiff bob, and marched about the neighborhood with an air of authority that bordered on tyranny. One of Windrush Grove's few communal amenities was a stone fire pit tucked away in a small park near the center of the neighborhood. Families enjoyed gathering around it on cool evenings for conversation or roasting marshmallows. It had existed for years without major conflict. Kids squealed with delight as they toasted esmores, and neighbors shared laughter over the dancing flames. The ring itself was simple, a circle of stones with some benches around it. Karen, as an HOA committee member, had never fully approved of the fire pit. She considered open flames messy and unregulated, though the HOA had official guidelines for its use. Over time, her annoyance with the informal, relaxed gatherings grew. Parents letting kids run about with sticky marshmallows offended her sense of tidiness. She scowled upon seeing little footprints or an occasional dropped chocolate wrapper. While the rest of the neighborhood saw the fire pit as a pleasant communal asset, Karen believed it threatened the pristine environment. She scoured the HOA rulebook for any clause to shut it down. Yet the ring was older than most regulations, constructed years ago under a more relaxed board. The pit complied with safety basics, and fire usage was allowed at certain hours. The residents adored it, so the current HOA board was reluctant to ban it. Undeterred, Karen complained that esmores nights encouraged sugar highs and rowdy behavior, leading to litter or smoke wafting onto pristine lawns. The board politely acknowledged her concerns, but found them minor. Families always cleaned up, abiding by posted guidelines. Frustrated, Karen concluded that if the HOA wouldn't crack down, she'd do it herself. Throughout summer, families made the fire pit their weekend tradition. At twilight on Fridays or Saturdays, parents and kids gathered with graham crackers, chocolate bars, and marshmallows. They swapped stories, giggled at jokes, or sometimes sang along with a neighbor's acoustic guitar. A small rotating fire captain ensured flames stayed contained, kids kept safe distance, and everything was extinguished properly at night's end. Neighbors found these gatherings enchanting, especially in a suburban setting. Friendships formed around the glow of the embers. Even teens enjoyed dropping by for a quick esmores fix. The ring united generations, from toddlers to grandparents. The only consistent holdout was Karen, who glared from afar or spouted snarky remarks about childish, sticky confections. Karen attempted a diplomatic approach, sending a formal complaint to the HOA about excessive sugary gatherings and unsightly leftover ashes. The board reminded her that as long as trash was disposed of and quiet hours were respected, the fire pit was permissible. Karen next tried cornering a neighbor who oversaw esmores nights, admonishing them for encouraging kids to ingest too much sugar and leaving charred logs visible. The neighbor brushed her off, citing official rules that the events were well within guidelines. Increasingly isolated, Karen felt the neighborhood was turning into a campsite, contradicting her dream of a sterile, uniform environment. She vowed to escalate, contorting her logic that if the board wouldn't ban the pit, she might sabotage it. In her mind, direct action was justified to preserve neatness. One midsummer Saturday, the largest esmores night yet unfolded. Over 30 neighbors congregated, each bringing a topping or snack. Kids played flashlight tag. The older ones practiced building the fire under adult supervision. Laughter filled the air. Marshmallows sizzled on skewers. Chocolate bars melted into gooey layers. People traded tips on how to get the perfect golden brown toast. Karen, passing by, glowered at the brightness of the flames against the dark sky. She noted the enthusiastic chatter, kids' shrieks of laughter. She retreated, bristling. Later, she scouted the site for leftover trash, determined to find proof of mess. She found only minimal remnants, someone's dropped wrapper, quickly disposed of by a vigilant parent. This further stoked her frustration. She couldn't even fault them for leaving the area dirty. She fumed, formulating a more drastic measure to end these gatherings once and for all. As Karen stewed, she considered physically tampering with the fire pit. She reasoned that if the ring was damaged or removed, the HOA's nights would cease. Her mind conjured images of prying out stones or scattering them so families couldn't rebuild easily. She even weighed staging an accident, claiming the ring had crumbled on its own. Her moral compass wavered, overshadowed by her compulsion to preserve a clean, quiet environment. She told herself it was for the good of the community, believing children's sugary chaos threatened property values. A twisted logic fueled her. No ring, no fire, no sticky meltdown. She planned to act under cover of darkness, ensuring no one saw her. The risk was high, but her frustration overshadowed caution. One Tuesday, near midnight, Karen slipped out of her home wearing dark slacks and a hoodie, a burglar's attire rather than a polite neighbor's. She carried a small crowbar, a rubber mallet, and gloves. The streets lay quiet, porch lights dim. She crept to the park, adrenaline coursing. Spotting the fire pit ring of carefully arranged stones, she pressed her lips tight. She spent the next half hour prying and hammering. Some stones were mortared, others loosely stacked. She dislodged them one by one, or hammered them to chip away at the mortar. The ring rattled ominously. The night air crackled with her labored breath. Satisfied, she scattered stones about, piling them awkwardly. She left the area in shambles, finalizing the sabotage. Then she hurried home, heart pounding with a mix of triumph and guilt. The next morning, parents who brought kids to the park for a walk found the fire pit in ruins. Stones lay haphazardly, ashes scattered. Some had cracks or chips, as if hammered. Alarmed, they alerted neighbors. Word spread swiftly. Someone had vandalized the beloved communal ring. Children who anticipated next weekend's HOA's gasped at the sight, some reduced to tears. Who would do this? A stunned father asked, kneeling by a broken chunk of stone. A flurry of texts and calls bombarded the HOA board. People demanded an immediate investigation. This wasn't minor graffiti or a single act of littering. This was a malicious, targeted destruction of a cherished neighborhood spot. Speculation abounded, with Karen's name surfacing in hushed conversations. Although no proof existed, her vocal disapproval of the pit made her an obvious suspect. That afternoon, the HOA board gathered, dismayed by the sabotage. Rob Miller, the board president, wrote a community-wide email condemning the vandalism. He promised a thorough look at possible culprits, though no camera footage existed in the park. The email ended with a vow to rebuild. The communal fire pit fosters neighborly bonds. We'll not let destructive acts stop us. The board urges anyone with info to step forward. Families, enraged, volunteered to help restore the pit. Some proposed using stronger materials, possibly a metal ring or durable stone blocks. The board considered a weekend rebuild day, inviting all. The meltdown ironically sparked deeper unity, reminiscent of old barn-raising traditions. The hush of shock turned into a fierce determination. We will not be bullied out of our HOA's nights. Karen watched events unfold, feigning ignorance. Publicly, she sympathized. So unfortunate. Perhaps the ring was poorly built, but rumors pegged her as prime suspect. She told a few acquaintances that the pit was unsightly and might have collapsed spontaneously. Some listened politely, unconvinced. Others demanded if she knew anything, which she denied. Behind her veneer, Karen wrestled with relief that no one had witnessed her sabotage, yet anxiety that suspicion was strong. She considered if she'd gone too far. But hearing about the impending rebuild enraged her further. Her sabotage might be undone swiftly, maybe resulting in an even sturdier ring. The sabotage risked becoming an epic fail, humiliating her if discovered. She steeled herself to maintain innocence, hoping the meltdown might still hamper Esmore's nights. When kids learned the fire pit was destroyed, heartbreak resonated. They had grown to love the weekly Esmore's ritual, a highlight of the weekend. Some wrote notes or drew pictures of the pit, posted them on a community bulletin board with pleas like, "Please fix our Esmore's place." A wave of parental empathy followed. If the vandal intended to kill children's joy, they had ignited community defiance instead. People vowed to come back stronger. Karen, seeing these heartfelt notes, felt a twinge of guilt. She recalled the children's wide-eyed excitement, how they took pride in building fires safely. Yet in her mind, the end justified the means. She repressed the guilt, focusing on how the ring's ruin might reduce mess. But the kid's heartbreak weighed silently on her conscience. Marta, a neighbor who had once overheard Karen rant about no more Esmores, found the timing suspicious. She privately told the board that Karen had the strongest motive. Another neighbor recalled seeing a dark figure near the park around midnight, but no definitive evidence existed. The board politely approached Karen to ask if she had heard or seen anything suspicious. She gave them stony answers, denying knowledge. This only amplified suspicion among those who knew her typical, controlling ways. Marta confronted Karen in person, stating, "I know you hate the pit. We're not fools." Karen played victim, retorting how no one can prove anything. The confrontation ended in a frosty stalemate. Marta, outraged, planned to invest her time in rebuilding the ring, determined not to yield to intimidation. The board announced an official fire pit rebuild day set for the upcoming Saturday. Volunteers would gather to clear debris, lay fresh stones, and ensure a sturdier design. They also considered a metal ring or a reinforced brick structure. Families pledged to bring wheelbarrows, tools, and refreshments. The sense of a communal barn-raising ignited positive momentum, a direct retort to the sabotage. Some joked they might paint the ring in bright colors to celebrate the Esmores tradition. Karen learned of the plan through the HOA email. Her sabotage was unraveling. Not only were they rebuilding, they aimed to make it better than ever. She mulled a second sabotage, but realized the watchful neighbors would likely catch any further tampering. She felt cornered, frustration mounting. The meltdown was forging a united front, ironically amplifying everything she loathed about the pit. In the days before rebuild day, neighbors coordinated. Some donated flagstones, others contributed metal pavers or heat-resistant bricks. A local hardware store offered a discount on mortar and gravel. The plan was to create a ring that wouldn't easily be dismantled. Linda, a mother of two, suggested adding a ring of benches around the pit, doubling seating capacity, so more families could gather comfortably. The board agreed. Word spread like wildfire. The sabotage had turned a simple stone circle into a major community project. Karen felt an unsettling swirl of emotions, seeing people rally around a cause that thrived on the Esmores culture she despised. She tried to console herself that maybe it had become too big a deal and flame out. But the community's excitement only grew, fueling the meltdown's paradoxical effect. As rebuild day approached, the HOA board fully endorsed the plan. They posted a sign, "Fire Pit Rebuild, all welcome, this Saturday 9 a.m. They also prepared official safety guidelines for the new ring, clarifying how to manage the fire responsibly. The guidelines included child supervision, strict fire extinguishing protocols, and designated quiet hours. This formal structure ironically addressed any legitimate concerns about safety, leaving no excuse for Karen to protest. Karen scrolled through the guidelines with a grimace. The meltdown ironically spurred a more organized approach, guaranteeing the ring's longevity. A final line in the guidelines read, "S'mores or other cooking are permitted within safe, clean boundaries, in the spirit of neighborly gatherings." She slammed her laptop, feeling powerless. Her attempt to quell Esmores had backfired so thoroughly. Saturday dawned bright, families arriving at the park with shovels, trowels, and spirit. The old stones lay scattered from the sabotage. Volunteers removed them systematically. Kids helped gather smaller chunks, forming a neat pile. Some older teens measured out a slightly larger circle. Linda and George raked the area smooth, preparing for a new gravel base. Neighbors lugged heavy cinder blocks or heat-resistant bricks to create a ring stable enough to resist petty vandalism. Others arranged seating logs around the perimeter. A welder neighbor offered to craft a metal center ring for extra durability. The synergy was electric, reminiscent of old-fashioned community barn raisings. Smiles abounded, overshadowing the memory of sabotage with collective pride. Karen watched from a distance, perched behind a row of hedges. She saw the communal excitement, heard cheerful chatter. The meltdown had ironically fueled a bigger, grander ring. She recognized each new improvement as a testament to her failure. The ring's circumference was set to be nearly double, with a protective metal frame at the center. She bit her lip, longing to disrupt them, but neighbors abounded. Any suspicious act would be spotted. Her phone buzzed with an HOA email praising the ongoing rebuild. A photo showed kids placing stones, parents smiling. She felt bitterness gnaw at her. Yet deep inside, a seed of regret flickered, overshadowed by her unwavering disapproval of mess. She retreated, letting the unstoppable wave of unity continue. By late afternoon, the ring took shape, a solid foundation of gravel, ringed with robust cinder blocks, topped by decorative stones. The welder installed a custom metal fire ring in the center, designed to contain logs more securely. Volunteers arranged benches in a semicircle, doubling capacity. The final result exceeded everyone's hopes: a large, safe, and visually appealing communal fireplace. Applause erupted when the last stone was placed. Children cheered, anticipating Escalating's nights again. The board members took photos, promising to share them in the next newsletter. The meltdown had ended not with a broken ring, but with a bigger, better structure. Families parted with exhausted but satisfied smiles, planning a grand inaugural fire the following weekend. The subsequent Saturday evening, the new fire pit blazed for the first time. Over 40 residents joined, each bringing snacks or chairs. Children squealed with delight, seeing how spacious the ring was, each bench providing a perfect vantage. Marshmallows roasted, chocolate melted, and folks chatted into the night. A father strummed a guitar, adding to the cozy atmosphere under starry skies. Karen, lurking near the park's entrance, saw the glow of flames. She heard the faint laughter carried on the breeze. A pang of defeat sliced through her. Her sabotage had accomplished the opposite of her goal. These nights were now bigger, happier, sanctioned by official guidelines. She left in quiet frustration. The meltdown's final outcome was a resounding triumph for the community. At the next HOA meeting, the board unveiled the formal fire pit use guidelines, detailing: fire must be supervised by an adult fire lead. Quiet hours observed at 10 p.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m. on weekends. All trash or leftover materials to be removed promptly. S'mores, hot dogs, or other roastable foods permitted. Seat capacity doubled to accommodate families comfortably. Residents applauded the clarity. The meltdown had ironically led to an official endorsement of the pit, ensuring no further dispute about its legality. Karen recognized that her main weapon, complaints of unregulated fires, was nullified by the new guidelines. She realized the meltdown had locked the ring into the neighborhood's fabric more firmly than ever. In the weeks following the grand reopening, the new ring fostered greater unity. Families who never socialized before joined the Escalating nights, forging fresh friendships. Teens practiced guitar songs by firelight. Seniors found seats to enjoy the warmth. Some brought homemade cookies or small sides, turning each gathering into a mini potluck. The meltdown ironically amplified this unity. Everyone knew the ring's new form was born from adversity. Karen, seeing these gatherings from her porch, recognized she was excluded from the camaraderie she unwittingly nurtured. People whispered about her potential involvement. She felt a pang of jealousy but refused to apologize or join in. She maintained a frosty distance, telling herself they were messy folks. Yet the cheers and laughter from the ring each weekend penetrated her shutters, a constant reminder of her sabotage's unintended legacy. A group of elementary-age kids started calling the sabotage incident the Big Firepit fight, weaving it into neighborhood lore. Some drew pictures in crayons, before a simple ring and after the grand ring. They told newcomers how the ring was destroyed by a sneaky grown-up, but rose again twice as awesome. The meltdown gained mythic status among youth, who saw it as a testament to the neighborhood's resilience. Karen occasionally overheard kids referencing the mean lady who hated Esmores. She fumed, powerless to correct them without incriminating herself. The meltdown had become a cautionary tale. If you sabotage something beloved, the community can rebuild stronger. The kids' unwavering positivity further alienated Karen, whose covert hostility found no fertile ground. A local landscaping company heard about the new pit and offered to donate decorative stone benches. The board accepted gratefully, further enhancing the site. This addition formed a neat circle around the metal ring. Families saw the meltdown's silver lining. The vandalism ironically attracted external support, polishing the ring into a showpiece. Heatherwood's once modest pit was now a highlight, often lauded in local real estate ads as a charming community feature. Karen grimaced at the thought that future homebuyers might be drawn by the very pit she despised. She grew weary of her diminishing influence. Even the board, once tolerant of her vigilance, had fully embraced Esmores nights as part of the neighborhood's identity. She had no recourse left but to watch from the sidelines. By mid-autumn, the ring became a staple. Each weekend, families gathered, occasionally rotating themes, movie night with fire, fall harvest s'mores, or storytelling under the stars. Kids overcame shyness, taking turns telling ghost tales or singing camp songs. The sense of community soared higher than anyone could recall. Parents marveled that an attempt to sabotage the ring had only expanded its cultural significance. Karen cut a lonely figure in her meticulously kept yard, hearing distant laughter from the park. She recognized the meltdown as a total fiasco for her aims. The pit was unstoppable, protected by official guidelines, physically reinforced and culturally embraced. The meltdown had ironically minted a hallmark for Heatherwood's sense of togetherness. Occasionally, guilt gnawed at Karen. She recalled the midnight sabotage, the secret triumph turning to hollow regret. She considered quietly confessing to the board or Ms. Penrose from the library, hoping for forgiveness. But fear of social and possibly legal consequences stopped her. The meltdown's legacy overshadowed her, and she convinced herself it was too late for redemption. She half-hoped the ring might fade in popularity come winter, giving her some relief. But families already spoke of warm cocoa nights around the pit under mild snowfall. The ring's design robust enough for year-round use. No weather would hamper the new tradition. Karen faced the harsh truth that her meltdown birthed a permanent fixture. She retreated further, forging minimal social contact. Sam, a father of two, realized Karen seemed increasingly isolated. Even if she was behind the sabotage, he believed in reaching out. One day, he approached her mailbox as she retrieved mail. He warmly invited her to the next autumn s'mores evening, explaining they'd be making caramel apples too. Karen hesitated, suspicious. She stammered an excuse about being busy. Sam left a flyer in her hand, urging her to reconsider. She stood there, overwhelmed by a swirl of bitterness and longing. That night, Karen read the flyer detailing the next Esmores night's theme. Despite her negativity, something inside her felt a tug, a flash of curiosity about the genuine camaraderie. She brushed it aside, concluding she couldn't show up after all that had transpired. She tossed the flyer, yet the invitation's kindness lingered in her thoughts. The autumn s'mores evening drew an even bigger crowd. Families wore light jackets, leaves crunching underfoot. They introduced caramel dips for apples, plus spice cider. The new ring glowed warmly, flames dancing. Children marveled at each sticky treat. Parents chatted contentedly. Someone recounted the ring's meltdown story as a dark moment turned bright, reaffirming how they overcame sabotage with unity. Karen, from her living room window, could see flickers of the distant fire. She felt a pang at having no place among them. She recognized that no matter how much she disliked the concept of messy esmores, she was now an outsider in her own neighborhood. The meltdown's consequences extended beyond a ring's reconstruction. Her social standing was irrevocably changed. A local blogger covering community transformations wrote a short feature, Heatherwood's Firepit, rebuilt stronger after vandalism. They praised how residents overcame negativity, forging deeper bonds. Photos showed the pristine new ring, families smiling with marshmallow-laden skewers. The piece didn't name suspects, simply mentioning sabotage. Nonetheless, readers admired the community's spirit. This mild publicity further cemented the ring's status as a model of resilience. Karen, seeing the blog post, nearly threw her phone across the room. She'd never anticipated her meltdown would become a symbol of triumphant neighborliness. Her resentment seethed, but publicly she pretended disinterest. She claimed the ring is overhyped, though few listened. The meltdown overshadowed any logic she tried to muster. School teachers in Heatherwood recognized the ring's story as a prime example of turning adversity into advantage. Some assigned essays or presentations on community rebuilding, referencing the meltdown. Students interviewed parents who helped rebuild, learning about mortar, stone laying, and volunteer teamwork. The ring itself became a mini field trip site for a local civics class studying citizen engagement. Karen's name was never officially mentioned, but many older kids suspected her involvement. They whispered comedic rumors about a wicked neighbor, undone by the ring's unstoppable revival. This further entrenched Karen's negative image. Meanwhile, the meltdown's educational spin taught kids how neighborhoods can unify after sabotage. Spurred by the ring's popularity, the HOA hosted an all-ages cookout one Saturday afternoon, using the ring for grilled skewers and later esmores. Senior residents came with folding chairs, teen volunteers tended the fire, toddlers waddled around supervised. By dusk, the ring glowed, linking multiple generations in lively conversation. Freed from petty restrictions, people truly bonded. Karen, overshadowed, strolled by the perimeter, arms folded. She half expected chaos, someone to overindulge or leave a giant mess. But the event remained orderly, the site carefully cleaned. She realized that the meltdown, if anything, taught neighbors to be extra mindful. Not only had she failed to stop esmores, she'd spurred them to adopt superior tidying standards. Irony stung her again. In the quiet corners of her mind, Karen wrestled with the knowledge she'd betrayed her own neighborhood's sense of trust. She recalled the thrill of sabotage, the subsequent wave of guilt. Each weekend, esmores night reminded her of her complicity. She dreaded that if the truth emerged, she might face not just social condemnation, but potential legal trouble for property damage. She considered a full confession but sank back into denial, rationalizing that at least no one was physically harmed. Yet the meltdown's outcome haunted her. The ring now thrived, doubling as a testament to communal perseverance, while she languished on the sidelines. She felt torn between doubling down on her stance or quietly letting go of her vendetta. Inwardly, she recognized the meltdown was an utter fiasco, but pride prevented an open apology. One crisp evening, Karen encountered Linda, a mother who championed esmores nights at the local grocery store. They ended up in the same checkout line. Linda, rather than ignoring Karen, engaged in small talk about the upcoming holiday s'mores. Surprised, Karen found herself responding politely. Linda invited her to stop by if she was curious. No bitterness laced Linda's tone, just a neighborly invitation. Karen, momentarily disarmed by Linda's warmth, mumbled a "we'll see." She left the store feeling an unfamiliar pang. What if she actually tried to reconcile, to attend a Esmore's night. The meltdown had taught her the neighborhood soared without her. She felt an odd longing to belong again, though overshadowed by shame. Winter breezes ushered cooler nights, but families still gathered around the ring occasionally, sporting heavier coats, sipping hot chocolate. The ring's design, robust and well-insulated, stood firm. Kids discovered the joy of winter Esmores, huddling close to the glowing coals. Snow sometimes dusted the benches, but participants cheerfully brushed them off, forging a cozy scene reminiscent of a winter lodge. The meltdown's meltdown overcame even the season's chill. Karen, peering through her frost-laced window, saw the swirl of smiling faces by the flickering light. She realized how the ring had transcended a single season's novelty. It was a permanent fixture, weaving deeper into the neighborhood's identity. Her sabotage ironically made it unstoppable year-round. A teenage girl, Serena, wrote an editorial for the high school newsletter, praising the ring as a shining example of community resilience. She recounted how sabotage turned to triumph, crediting the meltdown that tested our unity. She concluded that the ring symbolized forging bonds across generational lines. The piece circulated among families, further sentimentalizing the meltdown's aftermath. Karen read the editorial, feeling a mix of anger and grudging awe at how her destructive act had become a rallying cry for positivity. She recognized that the meltdown story might linger for years, retold at each Esmore's night, reinforcing the ring's legacy. She considered if perhaps this was a sign to let go, or to discreetly slip away from Heatherwood. Yet moving was expensive, and her roots ran deep. As Christmas approached, the board planned a holiday Firepit gathering, featuring carols, hot cocoa, and spiced Esmores. Flyers went door to door. Karen received one too, its cheery design boasting a cartoon fire ring, a smiling marshmallow. "Join us for festive cheer," it read. She stared at it, torn between cynicism and curiosity. Deep down, she admired how the meltdown's negative energy had blossomed into a beloved tradition. She told herself she wouldn't go. Yet a small voice whispered, "Would it kill you to see what it's about?" The meltdown had cost her community standing, but maybe if she showed up politely, she could start mending fences. She remained uncertain. The meltdown's weight pressed on her heart, but a spark of possibility flickered. She left the flyer on her table, ruminating. The evening of the holiday Firepit gathering arrived, crisp air heavy with the scent of pine and gingerbread. The ring glowed with garlands of soft LED lights, benches decorated with ribbons. Families wore festive sweaters, sipping mulled cider. Kids giggled at snow-dusted Esmores. Parents sang carols around the flames. The entire scene felt magical, a testament to the meltdown's final transformation into a beacon of unity. At the periphery stood Karen, drawn by curiosity. Shrouded in a long coat, she hovered behind a tree, watching. She saw neighbors exchanging gifts, the board members giving out small ornaments shaped like miniature fire rings. A child offered a Esmore to a friend. Laughter rippled. For a moment, Karen felt a stab of longing. She might have been part of this if not for her sabotage. She quietly turned away, a swirl of regret enveloping her. As Karen left the park, Linda spotted her silhouette. She broke from the group, jogging over. "Karen, wait," she called gently. Karen froze. Linda extended a steaming mug of cocoa and a small holiday cookie. "We have plenty. Come on, join us for just a bit." Karen's eyes misted, though she fought to maintain composure. She stammered an excuse. "I can't." Linda pressed the mug into her hand anyway. For a split second, Karen felt the warmth of neighborly acceptance. She'd spent months fueling negativity. Now, faced with Linda's kind gesture, she felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Before Linda could speak further, Karen turned and hurried off, half choking out a thank you. She sipped the cocoa alone on her walk home, the sweet taste mingling with tears she'd never confessed to. That night, Karen sat in her living room, the half-finished mug of cocoa on the table. She replayed Linda's invitation, the children's laughter, the ring's warm glow under holiday decor. She recognized it all formed a tapestry of genuine camaraderie that her meltdown had ironically strengthened. She recalled the hush of that midnight sabotage, her crowbar chipping away at stones with righteous fury. Now, it seemed petty and cruel in the face of such open-handed community spirit. Though guilt weighed heavy, Karen told herself perhaps, in some twisted way, she'd done them a favor. The meltdown forced a stronger ring. This rationalization offered faint solace. She understood if she truly wanted to rejoin the neighborhood's life, she might need an apology or open admission. Pride warred with longing. She ended the night uncertain, but the seeds of a softened stance had begun to sprout. With the new year, the ring remained a focal point for gatherings. The meltdown's narrative was widely known, how sabotage gave rise to a more robust pit. Neighbors who once only nodded politely now joined Esmore's nights, forging genuine bonds. The ring was so well-loved that the board considered installing small overhead lighting or a lockbox for firewood, ensuring year-round functionality. The meltdown's aftershocks were purely positive. Karen observed from behind her curtains, her old drive to control or sabotage replaced by a subdued acceptance that she'd lost. She avoided direct conflict, offering no more official complaints. People perceived she was no longer an active threat, though still unwelcome at the ring. Some wondered if she might eventually come around with an apology. Others doubted it, but the question lingered. Alyssa, a thoughtful teenager, wrote a reflective blog post about the meltdown, describing how an act of destruction ironically created deeper unity. She argued that adversity sometimes reveals hidden strengths. She ended with, "The meltdown may have come from fear or anger, but it ended up forging a bond we never thought possible." This post circulated among neighbors, striking an emotional chord. Many commented that they felt prouder than ever of Heatherwood's capacity to turn negativity into something uplifting. Karen, stumbling across the blog, felt unsettled. A teen's perspective framed the meltdown as misguided fear turned to communal love. She recognized the truth in it. Her fear of messy Esmores was trivial. The meltdown's aftermath dwarfed her petty motivations. She shut the blog in frustration, uncertain how to reconcile her hidden guilt with the unstoppable positivity the ring now symbolized. Years passed swiftly, and the ring's origin story became part of Heatherwood's lore. New residents heard how a sabotage meltdown ironically spurred the ring's reconstruction. Some repeated a half-fictitious version, painting the saboteur as a bogeyman who hated community fun. The ring's expansions continued. Some installed solar lantern posts around it. Others added a small shelf for roasting skewers. The meltdown was left behind as a comedic footnote, overshadowed by the ring's unstoppable legacy. Karen lived on in the neighborhood, overshadowed by her own regrets, never openly claiming responsibility. She maintained a cordial but distant relationship with neighbors. Freed from her old illusions of control, she found no new controversies to champion. Some suspected she'd become a reformed character, but few forgot the meltdown's possible roots in her hostility. One day, an older neighbor, Mr. Thompson, decided to move closer to his grandchildren outstate. The community arranged a farewell Esmores night in his honor, highlighting the ring's role in building intergenerational ties. Karen stood on the park's edge, quietly observing. She felt the ring's glow more as a metaphor than ever. Community shining, bridging hearts. Mr. Thompson, amid tearful goodbyes, shared a small speech praising how the meltdown had ironically improved the ring. He recounted old memories, including small gather nights before the sabotage, and how the ring's renaissance turned it into a major bonding point. Applause resounded. Karen realized how deeply the meltdown had become a symbol of redemption. She retreated to avoid any direct interactions, the sense of lost opportunity gnawing at her. The day after Mr. Thompson's farewell, Karen found a small gift bag at her door. Inside was a box of premium marshmallows, gourmet chocolate, and a note that read, "We have Esmores for everyone, whenever you're ready." It was signed by Linda, Sam, and a few other neighbors. A sense of shock overcame Karen. They were extending an olive branch, even suspecting she was behind the meltdown. She sank in her sofa, tears threatening to spill. She recognized a final invitation to join the ring's joyous circle. Pride still told her she didn't deserve their kindness after what she'd done. Yet she felt a fragile yearning to be part of that warmth. She left the bag unopened, unsure of how to respond. In the ensuing days, Karen wrestled with her conscience. She considered leaving the gift bag untouched, but found herself opening it, examining the fancy marshmallows. They smelled faintly sweet. She pictured families at the ring, passing around these treats. A wave of guilt clashed with a small flicker of hope. Could she show up, even if she never admitted her sabotage? Would neighbors accept her? The meltdown had come full circle. The ring thrived, the community soared, and Karen was left behind, grappling with the aftermath of her own sabotage. The gift bag represented a chance at redemption, but fear paralyzed her. Each time she resolved to step forward, she recalled hammered stones, tears of children, and felt unworthy. One Friday evening, Linda found a folded note slipped under her door. "I can't fix the past. I see how the ring matters to everyone. I'm sorry for the negativity and for any harm I caused. Thank you for the marshmallows. I hope you enjoy them. K." Linda recognized Karen's handwriting. Though not a direct admission of sabotage, it was the clearest apology yet. Linda quietly showed it to Ms. Penrose and a few others, who took it as Karen's attempt at burying the hatchet. The meltdown's final echoes softened. Linda replied with a short note on Karen's porch. "We appreciate your words. The ring remains open if you ever want to join us for Esmores." Linda placed a small heart sticker. Karen found it the next morning, reading it with trembling fingers. She still felt uncertain, but a door to reconciliation had cracked open. Months slipped by, the ring never losing popularity. Families found a new normal. Esmores nights, occasional potlucks, plus a small fund for ring maintenance. The meltdown was seldom mentioned except as a humorous origin story, how they overcame sabotage. Karen drifted quietly, sometimes peering at the ring from afar, never quite joining but no longer fueling negativity. Eventually, children grew older, new families moved in, enthralled by the ring's history. The meltdown's tension dissolved into an anecdote about how an attempt to quell Esmores ended up quadrupling them. The ring, fully embraced, showcased the unstoppable nature of communal spirit, unstoppable by fear or sabotage. On a mild spring evening, years after the meltdown, a small group gathered at the ring for an impromptu roast. Linda spotted Karen hovering near the path, half hidden by a tree. Instead of ignoring her, Linda waved. Emboldened, a younger teen offered Karen a skewer and a marshmallow. To everyone's surprise, Karen hesitantly stepped forward, almost shyly. She placed the marshmallow over the flame, posture rigid. No one teased or blamed her. They simply welcomed her. It was a fragile truce, no direct conversation about the sabotage. Just the sizzle of a marshmallow turning golden. Karen tasted the melted sweetness, murmuring a subdued "thank you." The meltdown had come full circle. The woman who once hammered stones now timidly partook in Esmores. The ring's gentle warmth glowed in her eyes, acceptance overshadowing old grudges. Some who witnessed Karen's cameo that night felt a sense of closure. The meltdown had ended not with a dramatic confession, but with quiet assimilation into the ring's welcoming circle. The sabotage might never be officially solved, but the ring's success and her hesitant acceptance signaled the neighborhood's final triumph over negativity. Indeed, from hammered stones to double-capacity seating, from tears to toasted marshmallows, the meltdown had forged unbreakable bonds. Karen, nibbling a sweet, sticky Esmore, realized at last the silly futility of her sabotage. In a silent, unspoken moment, she acknowledged how the meltdown ironically made the ring stronger and the community more open-hearted. She didn't say much that evening, just quietly joined in the warm glow, absorbing the lesson that no sabotage, no meltdown, could defeat a neighborhood united by shared joys. Years later, New residents inevitably asked about the ring's history, curious why it was so sturdily built. Locals recounted the meltdown, how someone tried to break it, only to spark a massive rebuild. The story circulated, often concluding with, "The ring stands bigger, prouder, and more beloved than ever, a testament to how we come together when threatened." The meltdown's final moral was that destructive impulses can't outlast communal resolve. Families continued to gather, forging memories around toasted marshmallows and sweet camaraderie. Karen remained in the neighborhood, leading a more subdued existence. She occasionally joined Esmoray's nights, never fully adopting the jolly spirit, but at least ceasing her crusades. The meltdown had taught her a painful lesson. The community's unity could conquer sabotage. Over time, her grudges faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance. She discovered a small measure of peace in letting the ring simply be. In the end, the meltdown that aimed to eradicate the fire pit ironically secured its future. A single midnight act of stone smashing led to a bigger, safer, more welcoming ring. Families thrived, children laughed, neighbors bonded. The meltdown became a legend retold on starry nights, overshadowed by the ring's bright glow and unstoppable presence. Karen's sabotage, meant to snuff out Esmoray's nights, instead stoked them into a permanent fixture of Heatherwood life. And so, under the golden flicker of each weekend's flame, the legacy of the meltdown stands as a reminder. No sabotage, no negativity can prevail against a neighborhood's united spirit. The ring's embers illuminate unity, melting away old grudges like marshmallows over a fire, warming hearts, forging friendships, and echoing with the triumphant cheer of unstoppable community belonging.